So things like that happen. I mean, it's you could argue that it was, maybe a poor schedule, and maybe they could schedule him on a bigger court. Yes, but again, she's Alex Eala. That's been a talk, and which is understandable. There's some players coming from respective countries, like she's coming from Philippines, which is now a big deal. She's been the biggest ever, tennis player from that country, which is a big country, and there's a big interest.
Novak Djokovic has finally broken his silence on the Australian Open situation involving Alex Eala, and he didn't hold anything back. The rising Filipino star, widely celebrated as the pride of the Philippines, suffered a shocking first-round exit. But according to Djokovic and many observers who have been closely following the tournament, her early elimination wasn't just about performance. The way the Women's Tennis Association handled her fixture is now under serious scrutiny, and Djokovic is leading the charge in calling it out. Eala entered the tournament with massive expectations on her shoulders. She isn't just another young prospect. She represents a historic breakthrough for Filipino tennis. With her rapid rise, record-breaking milestones, and growing international recognition, she has already cemented herself as one of the most significant athletes to ever come out of her country. Performers like her deserve proper respect and fair treatment on the biggest stages, and this situation has only intensified the debate around how emerging stars are managed in elite competitions. Alex Eala should have been treated like the elite talent she is, but instead of being given equal footing with players at her level, she was placed on a smaller court, a decision that raised serious concerns at the Australian Open. Despite her achievements and rising global profile, the Women's Tennis Association failed to position her on a stage that matched her stature, and that didn't go unnoticed by Novak Djokovic. He openly criticized the situation, calling it poor management and emphasizing that Eala, widely regarded as the greatest player ever from the Philippines, deserves far more respect and fair treatment. According to Djokovic, decisions like these reflect a lack of recognition for emerging stars, and when combined with the pressure of a Grand Slam environment, such mismanagement could have played a significant role in her early exit, even if some critics try to dismiss it as just a court assignment. When people ask, how much difference can it really make? The honest answer is, everything. For a player like Alex Eala, the smallest details can shift the entire outcome of a match. The court size, the atmosphere, the crowd's energy, even the lighting and surface conditions all play a crucial role, especially on a stage as intense as the Australian Open. But what makes this situation even more concerning is that it doesn't appear to be a one-time issue. Instead, it feels like part of a larger pattern in how she has been treated within the Women's Tennis Association. Anyone who has followed her journey closely knows there have been multiple questionable moments. One of the most shocking incidents came during the qualifiers, when Eala was in the middle of a crucial rally and hit a shot that was clearly in. No ambiguity. The mark was visible, and the trajectory backed it up. Yet despite all of that, the call was ruled out, instantly flipping the point and leaving behind a wave of frustration and disbelief.
Alex a little bit annoyed now. That's the second time that has happened with that same linesman.
That alone would have been controversial, but what happened next made it even worse. Instead of simply making a call, right or wrong, the officials chose to replay the entire point, a decision that goes against the standard rules of tennis. In this sport, there's no gray area in moments like that. The ball is either in or out, and the umpire is expected to make a clear judgment and stand by it. But in this case involving Alex Eala, those basic principles seemed to disappear during the Australian Open, raising even more questions about consistency under the Women's Tennis Association. And yet, what stood out the most was Eala's response. She didn't lose control or back down. She approached the chair umpire with composure, but with undeniable authority, making it clear that she understood exactly what was happening. The calm confidence in her voice and the determination in her presence showed that she wasn't going to be intimidated or treated unfairly without speaking up. Alex Eala knew exactly what was happening, and she wasn't afraid to call it out right there on the court. But what makes her story even more powerful is what came next. Despite the questionable calls, despite the clear attempts to disrupt her rhythm, she didn't crumble. She stayed locked in, pushed through the chaos, and still managed to win the match, eventually fighting her way all the way to the finals of the Australian Open qualifiers. That level of composure and resilience says everything about her mindset. But the situation doesn't stop there. It actually becomes even more concerning. When she faced Iga Swiatek, one of the most dominant forces in modern tennis, the stakes were on a completely different level. Swiatek isn't just any opponent. She's a multiple Grand Slam champion, a former world number one, and one of the most consistent players on tour. For a rising talent like Eala, simply holding her own in that matchup would already be impressive. But she didn't just compete. She stepped onto that court and delivered a performance that proved she belongs at the highest level. Alex Eala was going toe-to-toe with Iga Swiatek, matching her shot for shot, and proving she could stand her ground against one of the very best in the game. The momentum was clearly shifting. Eala was gaining confidence, building pressure, and looking capable of pulling off one of the biggest upsets of the Australian Open. But just as things were heating up, the match took a bizarre turn. Out of nowhere, an official interrupted the flow to question items in her backpack. Not after the match, not discreetly, but right in the middle of a critical moment. And what made it even worse was how it was handled. Instead of addressing it quietly, the situation was announced loudly enough for everyone to hear, putting Eala on the spot in front of thousands in the stadium and millions watching worldwide. It created the impression that she had done something wrong, almost as if she was being singled out and publicly embarrassed at the worst possible time.
It's confirmed you cannot use it.
Just imagine the psychological impact of that moment. Alex Eala was locked in, competing at the highest level against Iga Swiatek, building rhythm and confidence, and suddenly, she's publicly called out over something trivial. That kind of interruption doesn't just break momentum, it plants doubt. It's the exact type of disruption that can shake a player's focus right when they need it most, and many would argue it crosses the line into unnecessary psychological pressure, something that simply shouldn't exist in professional sports, especially on a stage like the Australian Open. And that's precisely why Novak Djokovic speaking out carries so much weight. He isn't just another voice. He's one of the greatest players in tennis history, a 24-time Grand Slam champion who has spent nearly 2 decades at the very top. He understands the demands of elite competition better than almost anyone, and more importantly, he knows the difference between fair treatment and situations that reflect bias or poor management. When someone like Novak Djokovic speaks out, people pay attention, and rightly so, because his perspective comes from years of competing at the very highest level. His message is clear: Alex Eala deserves better. She deserves fairness, equal opportunity, and the same level of respect given to every other player on tour. Situations like this at the Australian Open raise serious concerns about how the Women's Tennis Association is handling rising talent. Court assignments shouldn't feel random, officiating should be consistent, and players, especially those coming from emerging tennis nations like the Philippines, shouldn't have to battle questionable decisions off the court while trying to compete on it. The bigger issue here isn't just one incident, but the pattern it suggests, and that's something the sport needs to address. So the real question is, do you agree with Djokovic's stance, or do you think these situations are being blown out of proportion? What do you think about the calls and decisions that have affected Alex Eala's matches? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your perspective. Let's also take a moment to show support for Eala. She's already overcome so much and continues to rise despite the obstacles in her path. With her talent, her mental toughness, and voices like Novak Djokovic speaking up for her, she's proving that nothing can hold her back. If you enjoyed this video and want more tennis content, including coverage of critical issues like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on. Give this video a thumbs up, share it with fellow tennis fans, and help spread awareness about what's really happening in the sport we all love. Until next time, keep fighting for fairness in tennis, and I'll see you in the next video.